up down in the county jail. She heads down to the bar for a little fun, and as she walks to the door, just like a smoking gun, she hollers, "Hey man, won't you pour me a drink? You know, without my old man, I'm just a rat in the brink. I made it down here all by myself, and I left a good man hanging up on the shelf, singing."
Hey everybody, it's the Trout. Hope you're having a great day. Today's episode is a little unique for me because the musician that I got to interview, I had never heard of before until somebody watched another one of my videos and said, "Would you mind interviewing this person?" Well, he was correct in his assumption because the interview was great because he's a great musician, and his name is Cole Gallagher. Now, you're probably asking, well, who reached out to me? Well, it was Cole's father. So I listened to Cole's videos and listened to his music, and I said, I need to talk to this young man. Because Cole Gallagher is an upcoming, well, he's undiscovered, but wait till you hear his music. He's a great writer, he's a great singer, and he's coming along right at the right time, as far as I'm concerned, to bring in some great music to America. So I hope you enjoy listening to Cole. Cole's a young man, talk about what it's like to be starting in the music industry. It's not easy. And hopefully, more and more people will watch this video and listen to his music because I liked him a lot. And I think you will too. It's Cole Gallagher. And that video you just saw is called Smoking Gun, one of two videos that's up on YouTube. I suggest you check them out. Right now, I suggest you check out my interview with Cole Gallagher, up and coming musical star. Next on KT and the Trout.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up at? Where are you from originally?
So I was born in Pasadena, which is where I'm living right now.
Okay.
Pasadena, California, and but I was really raised in three different towns. One was South Pasadena, which, as you can guess, is just south of Pasadena.
Suburb, yeah.
And another town north of Pasadena called Sierra Madre. It's actually
Heard of it. Yeah, I've heard of
a
it.
little bit northeast of Pasadena. So I got to face the mountains whenever I
got
figure
it.
out where
Yeah.
And so I kind of just grew up between my mom's house and my dad's house. My mom lived in South Pasadena. My dad was up in Sierra Madre, and I honestly couldn't tell you what I used to do at my mom's house. Really, I started out just kind of playing video games, and I was really into learning. Mainly, I have a bit of trouble reading.
Mhm.
I have a weird form of dyslexia, which
Okay.
is actually more auditory than it is visual.
Okay.
Because, but anyway, so I just grew up watching documentaries, and then when I was at my dad's house, we would just go out in the backyard, and whether we were mowing the lawn or just I was playing in the backyard with my brothers, we just kind of ran around town and tore it up. And but my dad was the one who really kind of got me into music. None of my parents are musicians. In fact, I was really kind of the person in the family who brought music to the family. And that didn't happen until I was about 11 years old. But I grew up in my dad's house, listening to bootleg live performances of Bruce Springsteen and Creedence Clearwater.
Yeah.
A lot of different singer songwriter stuff, but I guess the overarching theme of it was that it was AAA, and it was rock and roll all the way. And
Right.
so I fell in love with rock and roll, and I knew for a long time that what I wanted to do was be in a band, or at least that's what I thought I wanted to do. I wanted the brothership of working with a bunch of guys to create music.
Yeah.
But because I started out on my own writing all these songs, when I got into a band, it more turned into me trying to cater, or get these guys to play the tunes that I had already written in my head the way
Right.
I envisioned it. And
Right.
so eventually I figured out that I was a solo artist that needed a backup band. And once I figured that out, the roads just opened wide up to me. I'll put it to you this way: I lied my way into 3 bands. Right? I took the first band. I said, they were like, "Oh, we need a singer." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can sing, no problem." I
Right.
never had a vocal lesson in my life. So we get
Yep.
in there and we're doing some cover tunes. I think we were doing REM, End of the World. And
It's the end of the
love the
world.
world
Yeah,
as
I
we
know.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough song
And
because isn't that the one that's got all the quick lyrics on it?
yeah,
Da da da
it's
da 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 da.
he
Yeah, yeah. A lot of
he
lyrics on
almost
it.
sings it like a rap. And
Yeah, I like her. Yeah.
but the anyways, I was trying to sing it exactly like
Michael Stipe.
yeah, like Michael Stipe, and didn't quite work out. They were like, "Sing it like you, sing it like you," and I didn't,
Mm-hmm.
because I had never had a vocal lesson in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was not very good. My voice wasn't tamed yet, and B, I didn't understand that concept, and
Yeah.
so they kicked me out of that band. I lied my way back into the same band when I had bought a guitar, and I said, "Oh yeah, I can play
Play
guitar."
guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, and they figured out very quickly I couldn't when we were doing Green Day covers, and I was trying to figure out the finger picking on Good Riddance,
Yeah.
and so I got kicked out of that band, and then the same project reformed, and they there's some tensions between me and the other guitarist at the time, and
Right.
so it fell apart again.
Yeah.
And I still hadn't improved as much as I had said I did. So I took all of that, and at the time, I wasn't really concerned with writing tunes. I liked the idea, but once I was all alone and there was nobody there to judge me, I went down into my dad's basement and I started writing songs. And once I once I started doing that, I figured out, wow, this isn't just there's something more to it. It's not just like, oh, I'm making up these stories in my head.
Mm-mm.
It's I it
Mm-mm.
was I can channel. I got it. I think of it as the best form of therapy in the world. And it doesn't really matter what you're doing creatively as
It's
long
true.
as you're dumping your emotions into it.
Yeah.
And so once I figured out I can do that, um, and it took some I stuff really started to change for me, and I joined a band, another cover band, and they didn't kick me out, and then I started getting vocal lessons, and I really started singing. I ended up taking over almost. I was fighting over lead vocal position in that
Right.
band. I was definitely not good enough to play lead guitar, but I was certainly trying, and eventually I resided myself to rhythm guitar, and that's where I fit best. And now I have a rhythm guitar, a lead guitar, and I play second rhythm. So
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
really kind of pushed it way back for myself, so that to give these guys a chance to show what they have been working on for so long, which I ended up focusing more on songwriting after I hit that epiphany
Right.
than I did on anything else. And the singing just started to naturally get better, and suddenly we're like, people were saying, "Wow, you're bearable." So I
What a compliment. You're
yeah.
bearable.
Yeah, and then it slowly started turning into, what, you're really good, and I'm thinking, well, what am I doing different? And the difference is that I was just singing and writing all the time, and
Yeah.
I wasn't really practicing guitar. I still don't know my blues scales. I just finished up a couple different forms of pentatonic, so
Mm-hmm.
but I'm very much a intermediate guitar player, and it's I mean, you'll get this. I mean, it's kind of a funny thing when you pick up the guitar. and you start hearing those notes, as you said, in your head, and you're able to find it, and you're bringing the song to life. The way I've always written, and I'm curious to hear how you do it, is I write the music first, and then the lyrics kind of come, and they start as like a rambling and mumbling. Rarely do I have lyrics before I go into a song, and when I do, I have a hard time finding the music. COVID, at least the quarantine, when it hit, it stopped everything in the tracks for everybody,
Sure.
including me.
Yep.
Until I realized that the only, my father and I really kind of realized that the only thing that hadn't closed was the studios.
Yep.
And immediately, what I did was I went into a studio over in Orange County, and I guess I should back it up a little bit. The first thing, I went to Nashville for the first time in the summer, or kind of, I think, the late fall of 2019. And I had a band back home that was pretty good, and I ended up, and we were starting to gig out a little bit here and there. And but I wanted to go to Nashville and see what it was like for working musicians doing 9 to 5, because it's really the only place in the world that you can see it happening, like just all the time and
Yep.
everywhere you go.
Yep.
And I was just blown away when I walked onto Broadway, and I immediately started, I guess you could call it bar hopping, because I was going from one bar into the next, asking if I could get up and play over and over and over again. And finally, one person let me up, and her name was Tara Lynn Pfister, and she heard me sing and play, and she went and she grabbed the owner of the bar. This was Tootsie's Orchid Lounge, and
The cool name. That's pretty cool right there.
Willie Nelson used to play in there. I think that's actually where he may have signed his first record deal. And so she went and grabbed the owner, and he came down. He said, "Can you start tomorrow?" And I knew I was only going to be there for 2 weeks. So we extended our stay in Nashville, because we were going to go to Nashville, Memphis, Muscle Shoals, down into Clarksdale. And we ended up doing that, but we cut down the rest of the trip we shortened it into a week. And so I stayed there, and I played a 4-hour set with 2 other musicians, and I began to understand just how grueling the process was of playing. Because I had never been in a position like that in my entire life. It was all just like little showcase gigs with my cover band up until that point. And after work, I did that 3 nights. I played at Tootsie's Orchid Lounge twice, and then I played over at Honky Tonk Central, and they put me on the 3rd floor of the bar. Which there were at 8 a.m. So there wasn't much traffic. But you know what?
Kid, we'll give you a chance. Come on down here at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, pretty much. And I was actually surprised, because there was this substantial amount of tips at the end of that. However, it was that set in particular was the toughest. But after that was my last day of doing a 4-hour shift. I walked over to Kid Rock's big ass honky tonk. That's the name. So and I walked up to the house band, and I said, "Hey," and I used my clout, having just played over at Tootsie's Orchid Lounge.
Right, yeah.
And they kind of tried to sweat me out. They said, "Okay, who hired you there?" And I told them the name, and so they knew, okay, so he's for real. Then he did play there. And then they said, "All right, what do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to do an original." And
they're like, "Oh, good."
The bar is packed, and I said, "It's a really simple song. I swear you guys will fall right into it." And I sat there, I stood right at up on a post in the bar with my arms crossed, just watching them, waiting for my turn. Finally, they called me up, and there's a video out there. I'll find it and send it to
Okay.
you. But you can see me showing them the riff, and then I I show them the verse, the chorus, and then I turn around and start the song. I forgot to show them the bridge,
Yeah.
but they knew it was coming.
They knew it was a bridge, but you just forgot to do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the song was really simple, but the place erupted after. I mean, I was just baffled. I was shaking the whole time because it was a completely packed bar, and anyways, my dad took a video of it and he posted it up on YouTube, and that landed me over at my first kind of like marquee show with my high school band at this place called The Rose here in Pasadena, and they're part of a chain that's Agora. It's called the Canyon. The Rose is one of their clubs. They also
Okay.
own a place called the Starlight Bowl and the Sabian and different theaters as well
Right.
as these
Yeah.
venues. But anyways, we opened up for Missing Persons. We played some 80s tunes, and at that point we were playing my material, except for one song that we wrote all together, and I had put my name out front of the band on the bill, so it said Cole Gallagher and the Lesser Saints. And the day after that, the entire band quit on me because
Just
they
you
wanted.
put your name out front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were just a bunch of kids, so we didn't understand. Everybody was worried about like the wrong things. I just wanted to make sure that because they were all going to college, and I knew that this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I wanted.
They
to
weren't
be
going to play the rest of their life. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they do because they're all very talented musicians, and I think that there will always be a spot in music for them. Where it is, I'm not sure, but I know that if they wanted to, they could find their own path. And so they quit the day after because I wanted to make sure that no matter what, if they all quit on me the next day, I would still get credit for the songs that I had written and the gig that I
Right.
had booked for them.
Yeah.
And my name basically wouldn't lose any of the momentum that I had just built for myself. And so after that, we landed as a result of the video at Kid Rock's and that gig, we landed a thing at the NAMM After Jam. This is a long story.
Yeah.
I'm
So
trying
yeah,
to,
obviously it's in California. You just had NAMM last weekend. Yeah.
yeah, but it was like, and it was at this little hole in the wall bar called something. I'll think of the name, perhaps. Bobby McGee's. I
Like the
think it
song,
was.
Me
Yeah,
and Bobby McGee.
yeah, and as a result of that gig, I met this guy, Chris Sikora, who I would go on to record during COVID with. But it was all as a result of the girl Tara Lynn Pfister handing me that guitar in that bar, and it was because of her that the ball really got rolling, and I started recording. And
But no, Cole, it didn't start with her. It started with you
well,
because you had the guts to do that. I mean, that's where I interviewed a Grammy-nominated harmonica player, blues player. He lives in Tempe, Arizona. White dude that grew up in Black Chicago. Okay, Chicago blues guy, and he would go to black clubs and ask them if he could get on the stage. Now, can you imagine a white kid going up to a bunch of black dudes that play blues? Can I play with you guys? And he'd go, and of course, he was phenomenally good.
yeah.
And he still, I don't know how many records he's put out. And he knows every blues artist out there. He's played with some of the greatest ever. But he took the chance. He took the guts, just exactly like you did. You walked in. I mean, you could have easily gone, oh man, they're not going to like me. People saw what you were like. I mean, something said, go ahead and do that. And that kind of fell into the everything. And if you go with what you just did, you go back and look at everything that happened. Sometimes it's just being in the right place at the right time, having the talent. You know what I see about your music is you're one of those people that I look at and go, why aren't more people hearing you? I mean, seriously, because you got a unique voice. You got kind of that rock country thing going on for you, which is kind of a cool little shuffle. I mean, they're cool tunes. Are they number one hits? I don't know, but they're something that kind of makes you feel good. Your videos are good, and you're sitting there going, okay, why hasn't anybody discovered you? You have some pretty good fans. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I was on Instagram when I followed you on Instagram. Chapel Hart follows you.
Yeah.
Do you know who Chapel Hart is? Do you
Oh
know the
yeah.
girls?
Yeah, and they're friends of Tara, and the reason I ended up meeting them and talking to them a little bit was because of her. But I guess what I think you're right. Like if I was too timid or insecure about myself, I wouldn't have been able to get on that stage. But it was two things. It was one. It was or three. It was my dad saying, "Look, man, it's tough when it's your dad because of course he's going to think his kid is great, but
Yep. Yep.
he really was like my rock, and he said,
Right.
"Man, you've got
He
something
still
that
is. He
oh
still
yeah,
is.
yeah, he is.
That's
My
why we're
my
having this
dad,
conversation right now. So
yep.
anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well,
Go ahead.
no, it's all good. And thank you for correcting me because I literally just spoke to him 2 seconds before I came up here, and he's my rock, and he said he said exactly what you said. The answer is always no until you ask.
Yep.
Unless you ask. And so I became very, after that trip, I became very acquainted with that concept. So there was that. I mean, he was really motivating me to get out there and do this. And I'm telling you, if he hadn't been there on that trip with me, I probably wouldn't have done it because at that time, uh, for a lot of different reasons, my ego and my security with my being was very low.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I had a really tough time in high school. I mean, I was the kid who sat alone and played guitar every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he hadn't been there, I wouldn't have gotten up. And if she hadn't handed me that guitar, I wouldn't have gotten the chance. And then if I was too insecure with myself, I wouldn't have been able to do it at all. And so I think it was conjunction of those three things that really uh, it's kind of like the perfect storm. And you gotta you gotta be at the right place at the right time to get hit by lightning. You
You
know.
know, and the other thing I think you got going for you is the fact that you're not very old, but you're smart.
Oh, thank you.
And believe me, I've met a lot of creative people. They're really creative, but they're dumb as a box of rocks. What if you sold a song to whomever, some famous guy or woman, and they're the one that's getting the adulation, but you know it's your song? Would that bother you? How would
I
you? Let me
think
ask you that. How would you feel about that? You know, you wrote the song. Have you ever thought about that? As a songwriter, you got to think about that. I mean,
I'll
because
be honest, like that no, I have thought about it, and I have kind of resided myself to not sell a song for
well, there
that
you go.
not for that reason
Yeah,
necessarily, but
yeah.
like I put so much time into I've written just over I'm at 200 songs now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and every single one of them has some sort of meaning to me that I couldn't and wouldn't want to articulate to
Right.
another person because when somebody listens to a song, if you tell them what the song's about, the meaning of that song has forever changed in their mind.
Yeah.
Whether, I think back to all of these events like that seem so minuscule at the time or that seem so minuscule now, but they were life-changing events in my head, and
Sure.
I was able to pick up pen and paper, and it's a documentation. It's almost like a time capsule, and there's nothing not only the words say what you were thinking and to some degree what you were feeling, but the music itself is what is everything. I mean, without that beat, it's just poetry, uh and to some degree it's like I said, it's like a form of therapy. It helps you work out the stuff that, and the best part about it is you can say the things that you would never say out loud in a song.
It's
The
true.
things
Yeah.
that you're afraid to say in
Yep.
day-to-day conversation,
Yep.
or you can just put it out there. And the more honest you are, the better reward you get back, as in people will relate to it more. As long as
And
you
what's
try to,
interesting, what you said earlier is true, because people don't really know what your song's about. They do, but they don't. They fit it in. There's a video. There was a years ago when John Lennon was alive, when they did stuff on. I saw it on TV once. A guy showed up to his house, found his mansion and wherever he lived in England. And he opened the door and he goes, "Hey, how you doing?" And the guy says, "I just want to thank you for writing that song about me." And the guy, John Lennon, like, "What are you talking about?" And I don't remember what song it was, but the guy was convinced that Lennon had written this song about him. And he was trying to tell him, "Look, dude, I don't even know you. How got to write?" And the guy was convinced that it was about him. And so you don't know, and you're right. When you get up there and talk about a song and you're telling people this is what it's about, sometimes it's easy. I mean, my songs don't necessarily have any meaning at all. You know, they may not say anything. Like I might, the last songs I write are more just uplift, and they're just upbeat songs. And it's kind of like the one you wrote about the girl in the bar and all that stuff. And watching that video probably conveys a much better picture than if you just stood up and sang it.
well, and that's the coolest thing about how music has changed, like within the last, say, almost 40 years, is that now you can write a song and you can put an image to it. You can put an image in somebody's mind. It may not even be what the song's about, but it can
Right.
be an image that you want people to think about when they watch the song, or literally
Yeah.
watch and hear the song. And it's a it's a very powerful thing, because it's like you said, some songs to an artist, they may not, to the artist who wrote them, may not be about anything at all.
Hmm.
And because you put it together in a way, and as long as you don't say that, people are going to have their own associated special meanings with
Yep.
that song.
And that's what's
Uh,
so unique about it. That's what's
yeah.
so cool about it, because they own
And
it.
as long as you try your, this is what I've kind of learned in writing. People connect better if you don't use like I and me. 28 songs recorded total. Two of them are different variations of the same song.
Okay.
But I have two of those 28 songs out for everybody to listen to. And I'm planning on trying to put out an album in 2023. I just need some time to really kind of get my, I guess get my assets together to
Yeah.
do a marketing and whatnot, and build a team for it. And that's where I'm at. Is the first thing is first is I'm trying to shore up things with my band, because as I mentioned before, I have a guitarist who's going back to Berkeley,
Yeah.
and I've got a kick-ass drummer. I've got a great bassist, extremely talented keyboardist, and a guitarist who can really hold down the fort for us. And but all of them have different. There's you know it's a tough sell, because we're playing to empty bars, and we're just starting to get paid a little bit, but to play
Right.
for 3 or 4 hours,
Yeah.
and that's the name of the game. It's tough to there's we can play a 30-minute set and tear the roof down. I have no doubt in my mind that we can do
Right.
that. But playing the if we are going for to try and make livings out of this, we got to start somewhere, and that's the longer gigs, because when you're playing 3 or 4 hours, you don't do that without payment,
No,
as an
you can.
artist. And
Yeah. How long did it take you to shoot Smoking Gun? Was it one day or did it take you longer than one day? Do you remember? And the reason I'm asking that, because you
three
are,
hours
is that all? Was it hot in there? I mean, you look like you guys are just worn out. I mean, there's parts where you're just kind of like you're sweating. I'm going like,
so The videographer came from another shoot and he got stuck in traffic, so they wouldn't turn the AC on because, well, they didn't want the air circulating too much in there because of COVID.
Oh, wow.
And so it got hot real
Yeah,
fast.
I could tell,
And
but it actually adds to it because it looks like you've been playing.
for
This is just
hours.
for hours. It looks like your band's been up there, and you're playing this tune, and the young lady comes in and does the dance, and of course, like all young ladies, they come in and tease and then leave. So it's like, I was watching. I go, man, he's really sweating, but see, those are interesting stories
Yeah.
because the fact that you were there shooting it during COVID, well, they didn't turn the air conditioner on. Of course, I was sweating because we
Yeah.
had to do the same thing over and over and over again.
Yep.
And okay, I'm going to move the camera over here, and okay,
And
now
they
do this.
had about they
Yeah,
had about 9 lights on me too, so
yeah,
it was pretty much unbearably hot. And you couldn't see. I think there's maybe 2 shots in the video where you could see it, but I had these rags off to my right where I would just pick them up during whenever we'd stop a cut or cut a scene. I'd pick up the rag and like just completely wipe myself down with it because it was bad, and I was a little bit more out of shape at the time than I was because during COVID, none of the gyms were open, and
yeah,
certainly
yeah.
I'm a rock climbing and water polo guy,
So you
so
keep active, yeah.
yeah, we definitely could not go into
No,
any of those gyms, and certainly not a pool because
and
we didn't know how it spread.
yeah, and I think the hardest thing for you right now is the direction you want to go is you got all these songs, and I, I'd like to see you become more mainstream. I mean, not mainstream, that's not the word, more popular.
Yeah, well,
And but it does take work to do that. And you have this, and I've been around a lot of people in my life. You have this kind of not an everyday care. I don't really care, but you do care. But you're not really driven to. You're not jumping around going, "I want to be number one. I got to be this. I got to be this great band." You've seen them on TV. They come out like that. So you
my
have
goal.
that, but you have that laid back approach, which really is cool, and that's just your personality. You've got a laid back. I mean, look what you wore to be interviewed: a sweater and I mean, you didn't sit around and go, "Hey, I got to put something really cool on it." That didn't even cross your mind, probably. I got to do a video. This is what I wear,
Yeah.
and
I
that
picked this up at a flea market
there you go.
for $20. Says
And so I
Jameson
think
on
the
it.
thing about it is, Cole, that's what makes you unique, is because it's not like you don't care, but it's like it's going to work. It's going to work on my terms.
I don't really care how far or how many people listen to my music. I think it would be great if no doubt if I could get as many views as like Billie Eilish or Beyonce. I
Yeah,
mean, I'd be ecstatic. But the fact is I don't the that stuff's not important to me. What's important to me is that I can play every day for the rest of my life.
there
And
you go.
that's what I want. It more than anything is to be able to sustain myself financially in a way that I can keep playing, you know, for the foreseeable future, and have a band that feels comfortable with what they're getting as well. And beyond that, it doesn't matter to me. All the image and if people like the music, they'll come to the show.
That's
And
right.
if people like the show, they're gonna go and try and find the music. All right, man. Thank you.
Hey, my pleasure, and
It,
we'll
it
keep
was
in touch. And I know you're going to do well.
it
Just
was
keep
really
plowing.
nice talking to you.
You too, brother. You have a good evening. We'll see you.
Have a good one.
All right, bye.